Hey church, disciple making videos, part something or another. Here's what I want to share with you today. There's, I guess, a common misconception that when we're making disciples, we have to reach some really high level of maturity before we can actually make disciples. The problem with that, it becomes a very slow process. If it takes us several years to reach maturity, I don't know how long that takes, maybe 5-6 years before we even start making disciples. The process of multiplying out God's kingdom in people's lives is a very slow one indeed. But if we read the scriptures, we in fact see that this is not the case. We see several examples. Probably the most notable one is the woman at the well who Jesus meets. He shares with her this great good news that he is the ultimate husband that she's been looking for all her life. And she runs back to the town and immediately begins to tell people about Jesus. I don't think we have to reach full maturity before we disciple other people. Some of our disciple making is peer-to-peer. A peer-to-peer relationship could be two fairly immature disciples who spend time in the Word together, perhaps reading some other material that would sharpen up their thinking, and they nurture, encourage, and kind of challenge each other to grow towards Christian maturity. Most parts of discipling tends to be somebody who's a little more mature than someone else. And this isn't a massive transfer of knowledge. I think one of the mistakes that we make is to think that the disciple-making process is about a transfer of information, where the disciple maker must know all the books of the Bible, who they were written by, when they were written, why they were written. And certainly I think obviously a great deal of biblical knowledge is a helpful thing. But discipling is really helping people follow Jesus better. And what we do is we nurture people who are less mature than us with whatever it is that we have learned from Jesus. And we help point them in the right direction. There's a saying that I find quite frustrating around leadership, is that you can never lead people further than you've been. And whilst I understand the principle of that, if I'm the bottleneck, it makes me kind of nervous, I guess. And so it is with disciple making. We may not yet have walked a path, but we do have the ability to point people on the path that we know is the right path. We may still be struggling to walk that path ourselves. We may have our own insecurities and our fears, our own idols that we're still trying to put to death. But that doesn't mean we can't help others put to death their own idols and deal with their own temptations and their own sins. And so I just want to put at rest this idea that you have to reach some state of great maturity. In fact, what seems to be quite astounding in many of the gospel stories is how immediately that people met Jesus, they went and told others. Here's the one who's called the Christ. We think this might be him. Come and see what he's up to. Come and meet him. Come and look at what he's doing. See how he loves people. There's no great process that these people go through. Obviously, no-brainer. The more mature you get in your disciple making, the more mature you are in your own relationship with Jesus. Obviously, the more you have to share with other people, the more knowledge and wisdom you've gained from following Jesus, and probably the more clearly you can point them to Jesus. Simplest example of this is if somebody that you have been working with comes to faith in Christ and they just respond and there's this deep move of the Spirit. Don't wait for 6 months or a year before telling them to start sharing their faith with other people. Tell them to start immediately. What have they learned? Well, they've learned that Jesus forgives, that Jesus brings freedom, that Jesus is good news when life is bad news. And get them to share that news with other people. Maybe Acts 1:8 is quite helpful here, where we're told to be witnesses in Jerusalem, Judea, Samaria, to the ends of the earth. A witness merely tells what he or she has seen and what has happened in their life. And that's one of the parts of disciple making, is simply sharing Jesus' story and how he has transformed us. And by doing so, we encourage others to make their own commitment to follow Jesus more closely and to trust him more powerfully. And so I just want to leave that thought with you today. Don't wait for anything to change. We're giving you these tools to equip you, but this isn't a process where you sit through for 6 months or a year and then finally decide to start disciple making. Start today. Start prayerfully working with God to identify the people that he has put on your path that you need to disciple up to Christian maturity. And I promise you this, you won't have to look far. So I want to keep encouraging you, just keep helping you, equipping you, and remember it's Jesus who's sent you out into the world to make disciples of the nations. Go and do it for his sake. Have a great day.